Hey, I just wanted to make a video because I finished Septology by Jan Fosse. I think that's how you say his name, Jan Fosse. I haven't looked it up or anything, but I did say to the bookseller the name John Fosse, and the bookseller said, "Oh, do you mean Jan Fosse?" So, according to Connell, the bookseller from Sellers and Newell in Toronto, it's Jan Fosse. And Jan Fosse just won the Nobel Prize in literature, as you maybe / probably already know. And this is the only thing that I've read by them. As far as I understand, he is a playwright, first and foremost. And I haven't read any of his plays, but I have read this novel now. I guess it's actually a series of 7 novels packaged into one, hence Septology. It's about 700 pages long, I think a little shy of 700 pages in this English translation that I have by Searles, Damien Searles. And it was a really excellent and special book. What does it really remind me of? I think it's actually quite a unique book. There are some passages that remind you a little bit of Beckett, just because of the density, the length, the interminability of the paragraphs. Can remind you a little bit of Beckett. But really it's unique. There are these long, repetitive, flowing passages. You could even say that the whole book is just one long, repetitive, flowing passage. Because there are so many refrains, and there's so little interruption in this gentle flow of the novel. In fact, there is so little interruption that there are even no periods in the work. There isn't a single period, so far as I know, in the book. I mean, I didn't notice one. Maybe there's one in there somewhere tucked away, but I don't think there are periods. So it's actually just one sentence. I mean, let me just look actually and see if there's one at the very end. Yeah, no, there isn't. So is it even a complete sentence? I kind of think not. I kind of think it's just a clause, just one section of a sentence. And sorry, I'm rolling away from the camera because actually the floor in my apartment is like a bowl, a concave bowl, bending down into the middle of my apartment. Because when my landlord dug out the basement to put in a 3rd unit in this old house where I live, the whole house kind of caved in towards the center. So if I start rolling away from the camera, that's why. My wheeled desk chair is rolling in toward the center of the bowl. So there you have it. And so, but I loved this book. And even though it is 700 pages long, it doesn't feel like a long book, because you can really breeze through the sentences and the paragraphs as you're reading. It has this rhythm and this flow to it. it's very conjunctive. There's so many ands in the book. And he always comes back to the same things over and over again. So there's one protagonist, but the protagonist is a bit duplicated. I don't know how to pronounce the character's name, but it's spelt Asle. I think it's pronounced Asle or something like that. And Asle is a painter who leads a very quiet life, and they're a little bit in their old age, and they're a widower. And their wife, their dearly departed wife, was named Alice, A-L-E-S, an anagram of their own name. And that's actually very common in the book, these duplications of character names. So Asle's neighbor is named Oslake. I'm not sure if that's exactly how to pronounce it. It's like an A with a little circle on top. I think it's more of an O sound, Oslake. But really, it's only a few extra characters, beyond Asle. This is their neighbor, their one neighbor in this rural town in Norway where they live. Bjørgvin, or something like that. And the similarity of these characters, the similarity of their names, makes you wonder whether there even is more than one character in the book. And in a way there's not, because the whole book is just Asle, the protagonist, thinking between these clauses of the one long clause as one sort of conjunction. Asle is always saying, I think and I think. I think, I think, I think, I think and I think. And so it's a very internal novel. A lot of interiority. And it's unclear how much of the world really exists outside of their own mind. So, for example, Asle, the painter, has a doppelganger with the exact same name, who is also a painter, but their doppelganger is a drunk. And what ends up happening is there's this weird situation where you think, oh, this person is obviously a doppelganger. You realize kind of right away that Asle is the same as Asle. Maybe it's a different path that he could have gone down in his life as a painter, become a drunk instead of becoming a devout Catholic or Christian of some kind. But then the characters actually interact. So Asle takes Asle to the hospital when the doppelganger, the drunk doppelganger, starts to get very ill from their drinking. And so the doppelgangers are interacting with each other in the world in this one respect, but then after Asle drops Asle off at the hospital, after he takes him there to, so that hopefully the doppelganger can recover, they never actually get to interact again. So he keeps calling the hospital to check in on him, but he's never allowed to go back. And I thought that was really interesting and odd because it made you question the reality of the doppelganger. So first the doppelganger introduces this alternative path that the painter may have gone down, and then they interact. So the universes kind of collapse in on one another, and then they're sort of rent asunder again by the hospital's refusal to let the protagonist visit his doppelganger in the hospital. And, spoiler alert, the doppelganger ends up dying in the hospital after the protagonist never sees them again. However, the protagonist keeps their dog. There's this little dog named Braggy, and the protagonist keeps this dog, keeps the doppelganger's dog. So this piece of that other universe is kind of left with the protagonist. It's as if, he's kind of taken something out of this other universe, this parallel universe, and brought it to live with him in his universe. So that was kind of cool. And there are other duplications as well, like Oslake or Oslake. Not sure if either of those pronunciations are correct. Has this sister named Guro. 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 So Oslake has this sister named Guro. And there's also this woman named Guro who lives in town, who at one point the painter, the protagonist, seems to have had a romantic affair with. And, spoiler alert, the Guro in town dies. They pass away in a fire. And only at that point does the protagonist decide to go and visit Oslake's sister, Guro. So they never exist in the protagonist's world, the world of the protagonist's mind, at the same time. There's never two Guros in the plot, although there are two people discussed named Guro throughout the novel. They never exist in the action at the same time, but they're both there in some way. And Oslake's sister, Guro, has invited Osel, the protagonist, to come for Christmas every year. And he's refused every year. But finally, after Guro passes away, the one in town, he finally goes and meets this other Guro. So there's lots of, duplications and obfuscations like this that makes for a really destabilizing plot. And although the novel seems to be a straightforward, realistic novel, it's about real people in Norway doing normal stuff. Although it seems thus there are these real intrusions of the unreal into the text, and you never quite know what is imagined and what is fact. Really haunting book, actually, for those reasons. And, the hauntology of it may be one of the main points The protagonist is mourning the loss of his soulmate and wife, Alice. The scenes where he remembers her are incredibly moving and beautiful. Sometimes the protagonist sees himself and Alice out in the world. He sees himself and her as young people out in the world and interacting in some way. He sees them as a young man and a woman walking in the snow or playing in a playground, something like that. And the book is very much haunted by her absence, by her painting, which sits upstairs in his attic, and at one point in the novel becomes the only painting that he resolves to keep out of all of the paintings of his that he has preferred over the years, that he's kept instead of selling or instead of giving away. The only painting he eventually keeps is the portrait of his departed wife. And yeah, I mean, there's lots more to say about it. I'm probably not the best person to speak on it either, because there's so much going on here, and it's the book of an author with such a storied career. But I just felt kind of called to talk about it a little bit because I really loved reading it. It was a really emotional and impactful read. I would absolutely recommend anyone to read this. It's a fairly low barrier to entry, although there is some Latin. There are some Latin prayers, which admittedly I just skipped. I didn't bother to look them up, so maybe I'll go back and actually translate them and get a little bit more out of the book that way. I have an edition by Transit. I don't know if you can see that. Transit Books. And Transit Books, I don't know anything about them, but they are in California. Berkeley, California. Transit Books. Although, you know, it also comes in a Fitzcarraldo edition. The ever recognizable Fitzcarraldo. So, you know, if I'd known it came in this elegant blue, I might have got the Fitzcarraldo edition instead, although it's kind of hard to ship those to Canada, kind of expensive. But that's that. Jan Fosse, Septology, hard recommend, and I hope you enjoy.